But that would be one thing. But well, why don't we start just as a test? You can tell me about. You were telling about the cemetery and why.
Yes, yes. Well, let me start first. What do you know about my grandfather? Have you heard the tales about Grandpa Selkovitz?
No. Why don't you tell me one short one, and then we could test the sound. I don't want to have to read.
As a grandpa was rather religious.
Which Grandpa Max?
Grandpa Max. And every Shabbos, I would walk up to Plan 12 and then walk down the hill with him. Mm-hmm. And it was an adventure to do that. First of all, when I went to be there, he would be studying, reading, praying, and he would teach me along the way. And then we would walk down together. And it was a game I played with him all the time. I wanted to ask him a question that he couldn't answer. Mm-hmm. So that tells you how brilliant. He really was brilliant. Mm. He was a very quiet, pictures of him, a very tiny man, short, very thin, but he was witty and brilliant. The superintendent of schools would go to him and discuss the problems in the school system with him. The man who was in charge of J&L also was one of his friends who would come up and visit with him and discuss the things that were happening. And it was a joy to walk down with him. Walking down, he always had little candies, and the children would run out when they saw him to get little candies from him. Mm-hmm. And he would stop at my mother's house. And he was looked up to by everybody. We didn't buy a dress that he didn't have to look at and approve. He thought women should always look as nice as they could. Mm-hmm. And we would want his word of approval for things that we purchased. He would listen to my violin playing to see if I was progressing, listening to the way I sang. My folks thought I was able to sing well. So everything went through Grandpa. Mm-hmm. And then the sad thing, as happens to everybody sooner or later, he died. What happened, as far as backtrack a wee bit, I was working in the office in Logstown, and Big Katie was the only one who knew that he had gone to the doctors, to the cardiologist, because he wasn't feeling well. And the only reason that he asked her to pick him up was because it was on a Friday and he didn't want to be riding on Shabbat. Otherwise, he would have taken the streetcar. And since I was working there, I went there too. And Grandpa wasn't feeling too well, but yet the cardiologist said he'd be all right. And that was on a Friday, as I said. Sunday, he went to the hospital, and he died on Monday. My father, all the family was there except my mother. Nobody wanted to tell her. She adored her father. And somebody from the office drove her, and she didn't know. She thought she was going to the hospital, but she ended up going to the funeral home. And she was just, it was very hard for her. And so here, okay, Grandpa, family all went to McKeesport. Grandpa had established the synagogue in McKeesport and helped purchase the cemetery. And we get there ready for the sad burial, and they hadn't even started to open. They didn't even know. The word hadn't gotten to them that they were supposed to prepare the plot. Well, the people were really hysterical, and the family was enraged that they hadn't bothered. That was the reason that in 1956, the whole family bought those lots, the cemetery plots in Polizetic, which had just opened up. The rabbi of Polizetic had been one of the people that Grandpa had mentored, and so he was like part of the family. And that was why we were there, and your grandmother and grandfather were there. Your Adolf and Bertha are there. That was what happened. Everybody had plots in the McKeesport Cemetery, but they purchased plots in the Polizetic Cemetery.
Let's see, what do you have there? You have a chicken you just brought out of the... oh, I should have... it smells very good.
Stay for dinner.
Oh, I wish I could. But